thank you so much for joining me for this 10 card one kit video from the Love from Lizi August 2018 card kit. On to card number one. Card number one, I used a piece of the gold foil paper and cut it to size. Using some foam dots, I laid the letter sticker sheet alphas in the words Happy Birthday in gold, silver, and white with gold letters and white with silver letters. I matched it up with a piece of burgundy cardstock from my stash and added double-sided adhesive tape to the gold foil piece, attaching it over the burgundy piece. I applied sequins and then I trimmed it down a little bit, and then I worked on the inside panel. I used a Galaxy Gold ink, stamping it twice to get full coverage. It's kind of a fusion of pigment and dye, so I let that dry a little bit and then added some sequins, 5 in total, 3 for the top, 2 for the bottom, gluing the inside with liquid adhesive and then attaching the front portion panel to the front. I then went back and add some Nouveau drops inside of the sequins, and that completes this card. Card number two, I used some blue paper from my stash and cut down a piece of the vellum, and they're both the exact same size. I attached some double-sided tape right at the very top because I was going to, or I did put a piece of foil striping, which was, I just cut one strip and I used that from the stripped foil paper. The foil on the vellum is silver, so I matched everything up silver, using one of the tags that said hello and cutting it down, placing it on top of the cardstock from my stash, and then leaving a little trim exposed around the outside. I cut an inside panel from the blue as well so that I could layer the white on top of the blue, and then I stamped a stamp with Versamark and used the embossing powder from the kit, and it is called Silver Dollar. I just put adhesive anywhere that I could sneak it on, so behind the hello, attaching the inside panel with liquid glue and the front panel with various adhesives. And that completes this card. Card number three uses pattern paper from the kit, the gold foil and white diagonal stripe, which I cut in 2 strips. This is a top fold landscape card, so I put the adhesive on the top by the score mark and on the bottom edge, and then I applied the foil strips to that. The panel was also cut from pattern paper, and this had foam adhesive tape applied to the back so that it would have some dimension, and that went between the 2 foil stripes. The peel-offs were added at the bottom of the panel and at the bottom and at the top of the panel where the stripes joined. I cut star out of shimmer paper, and then I golden embossed your star with the embossing powder from a few kits ago called a golden crown. I then took Versamark for the inside panel as well and stamped 3 of the little stars that were included in the stamp set, using the gold embossing powder with that as well. I heat set it and then trimmed it down just a touch so that I could use that for the inside panel. I brought a stripe, the same gold foil and white paper, attaching that on the inside with adhesive directly to the card panel and the card base, and then the card panel went on top of that with liquid adhesive so it was flat, and a peel off went at the joint. And that completes this card. And here's a photograph for a closer look. And on to card number 4. Card number 4 utilizes the mirror self-adhesive hexagon pieces that were in the kit, attaching those to a black cardstock panel, following a white pastel pencil lines which I drew onto the card base. I also used the die cut made with love that was silver foil, and then using a white panel for the inside of the card, I attached to peel off. The inside was attached, as was the outside, with liquid glue, and that completes this card. Card number 5 is a top fold portrait card using the gold foil pattern paper from the kit, as well as a gold foil tag which I attached to black cardstock and then trimmed with a little bit of an edging. The gold pattern paper had a ribbon that had double-sided adhesive on the back of it, and that was attached almost in the center. Double-sided foam adhesive was added to the back, and then this panel was added to a black cardstock panel. With Love was attached on the right hand side of the ribbon, and then the outside pattern paper as well as the ribbon was carried onto the inside by being placed on the bottom of the inside panel. The inside panel was attached to the card base, and that completes this card. Card number 6. Card number 6 is also a top fold portrait card. This utilizes 2 of the pattern paper, a wide stripe on the bottom and polka dots on the top, both silver foil. I then cut a strip from the wider foil left on the sheet and put that on the front where the 2 patterns meet. I then took the peel-offs and put them on the top and the bottom of that little strip. I cut the word thanks, the outline, as well as the word with shimmer paper that came in a previous kit. I then carried that silver stripe into the inside panel, attaching the front panel directly onto the card base, and then the inside panel directly onto the inside of the card base. And that completes this card. And here's a photograph for a closer look. And now we're on to card number 7. Card number 7 uses gold foil vellum paper, which is cut to a panel 5.5 by 4.25. The hexagon self-adhesive mirror pieces were used, and they went exactly in the hexagons of the gold foil. 1/8 of an inch gold color ribbon was attached to the front using tape to the back, and I ran that down the left hand side and then attached a bow with glue dots. The word smile was cut out from some gold shimmer paper, and this was attached to a piece of white cardstock that was trimmed down so that it made a flag. A double-sided adhesive was attached to the back of the foil anywhere there was something that I could use. So behind the mirror pieces, behind the smile, and behind the ribbon, and then glue dots went to the corners. The outside panel is complete, so it was attached to the front of the card base, and then I moved on to the inside card panel, adding a strip of the gold shimmer paper to the bottom, and then attaching the inside panel to the card base. I then stamped the words, the stamp best and loveliest friend with the galaxy gold, as well as a star. And that completes this card. And here's a photograph for a closer look. Card number 8, we have a side fold portrait card from black cardstock. Using the largest stamp and a small MISTI, as well as Versamark, I ink up the large stamp, and with one impression I got really good coverage, and then I'm using some Love From Lizi exclusive silver dollar embossing powder and a heat tool to set that. Once it's set and cooled, I applied Nouveau Deluxe adhesive to the back, adding a generous amount and securing that to a piece of black cardstock so that I can trim it, but leaving a border around the outside. I attach adhesive to the back of the vellum. I used a piece of gold foil vellum, but I didn't want the gold, so I flipped it over so the glue went on the gold portion. I used adhesive foam squares to attach the Let's Celebrate piece that I embossed over a piece of silver ribbon that I had in my stash. I had some tails sticking out from under that. A piece of silver foil from another piece of pattern paper was added to the inside panel, and that inside panel was secured on the inside, and that completes this card. And here's a photograph. Card number 9, I kind of forgot to turn on the camera for a bit, so I've done 2 cards almost the same for you to see. I cut a foil panel from foil that was in a previous kit and used a corner chomper to chomp it after I applied it to the front of the card. I just use a die to cut out the scallop edge and another die to cut out the center. I stamped the word thank you on the inside and brought that foil back that was on the front panel to the inside, cutting a strip for the bottom. The inside panel was attached to the inside of the card base, and one of the tags was cut down that said a little note, and that was attached to the center with dimensional foam. Number 10 will give you a better idea of how this card went together. So I cut the foil piece. This was another piece of foil from a previous kit, and that was cut, that fills the whole panel. I then got a piece of the gold dot pattern paper and the gold dot vellum paper, cutting a frame from the gold dot pattern paper, and then putting the foam double-sided adhesive tape all around that frame. I then secured the frame to the foil panel and then added the negative paper back inside the frame. I got some really narrow double-sided tape and put that all around the piece of the vellum and attached the bottom before I added any of the goodies inside. I just used some seed beads and some stars, and they went on the inside, and then I secured all of the other pieces of the vellum panel. I utilized one of the tags that says "Have a Magical Day" and cut that down to size on a piece of white cardstock behind it with a border. I then carried that same foil paper that was on the front panel with a strip for the inside. I attached that whole shaker portion to the front of the card base and stamped "Happy Birthday" inside. And that completes this card. And because I have 2 the same, I thought I would make an extra card. So here is a card made out of star foil pattern paper. I cut it out with star dies, a large one on the outside and a smaller one on the inside because I wanted like a frame. And then I cut multiple pieces out of white cardstock. One piece I did not allow to cut out all of the way. So I have a little tail, and then I'm marking it where I want it to fold for a card with my scoreboard. I then fold this little tail down and attach the front part of the card, which is another star. I hold those down, and then I cut another little strip and apply it over those 2. Then the next piece, the next star that I have, I cut a little bit of the point off, so this would go on the inside and cover up all of my reinforcements, but bend nicely. I also put one on the back of the inside so that I could cover all of that workings up. And then added the foil pattern paper frame, making sure that I got all of the points and all of the indents really well. I then went back to that same gold shimmer paper and cut out a small star, placing that on one white fun foam star that I cut down so that I didn't have any pieces pointing out, and then brought the gold foil embossing powder back out again. With Versamark, I stamped You're a Star from the stamp set, and I added this with Dimension. This went on the inside of the card, and then I used some of the stars that were in the sequence bag and added those to the inside, 3 of them, and then 1 in the center of the stars that I had on the outside. So I have the gold shimmer paper and then a white cardstock on top of it with a little tiny star on the inside of that one. And that completes this card. Thank you so much for watching and taking time out of your very busy day. Bye-bye.